The James Harden situation in Philadelphia just continues to get weirder and weirder. Now it's becoming very clear that he is not going to just give in to Philadelphia not looking to trade him anymore. We got that report weeks ago about the fact that James Harden was going to be a Philadelphia 76er, that the talks with the Clippers had ended, that trade talks in general for Philadelphia had ended. And now James Harden's just not showing up, not reporting to the team, which adds a whole new element to this. Now, the new element to this, if you haven't watched some of my other videos about the Harden situation, is there's this rule that's in place that I'm not going to go through the entire thing here, but essentially means that James Harden has to show up. He has to be available to the Philadelphia 76ers because he's on an expiring contract. And if he doesn't, he basically won't be able to become a free agent in his NBA career until Philadelphia decides that it's okay for it to start back up, is basically going to be over. All that to say, James Harden's situation has to get resolved in one way or another. He has to be traded to a new team, or he has to show up and play for Philadelphia. And this media day situation, by all reports, is just another attempt by him to quit on the team, to force his way to a different situation because he just does not want to be there. And he thinks that if he goes to a new team and plays well, he'll be able to get one more big contract, which has been the driving force behind this entire situation. But here's what I don't understand if you're James Harden, is if he believes that there are teams around the league that are going to be willing to pay him, that are going to be willing to trade assets for him on an expiring contract, knowing that he can't sign an extension, knowing that they have to risk that this guy that changes teams every other year is then just going to re-sign with them next offseason rather than look for other opportunities in free agency. You have to account for all of those things first. And then you have to account for the fact that Harden is actively lowering his own value, making this situation worse by quitting again. There were portions of last season, especially in the beginning of the year, where James Harden looked like an all-NBA caliber player again. Not MVP level James Harden, but one of the best guards in the league, one of the better offensive players in the league, a great playmaker, a really good fit alongside Joel Embiid. There were portions of last season where that was the case, and I think that's why he was banking on getting this big new contract. But the situation has changed if you're James Harden. And this idea of continuing to try and force your way out of Philadelphia makes very little sense to me, because I don't know how you are suddenly going to change the equation for other teams around the league. Philadelphia doesn't want to trade Harden right now, only because they haven't been able to get the value that they want in exchange for him. They're not against trading him away. Daryl Morey has said at Media Day that they would like to trade him away. It's just not something that is possible for them right now in terms of an exchange of value, because no other teams around the league think that he's worth anything in addition to also having to pay him in, next offseason, assuming that he actually wants to come back as a free agent. And to me, this has just been a misplay by Harden, by his representation, of massive, massive proportions. You can go back a couple of years where he had an extension offer in Houston, didn't take it, wanted to go somewhere else, wanted to request a trade, ends up in Brooklyn. Had an extension offer on the table before the year in a situation where he could have signed up to play alongside Kevin Durant for the next 4 to 5 seasons because KD had already signed his extension. Extension offer on the table, $200 million. He said no. Then he gets traded to Philadelphia. He has an opportunity to sign a bit of a longer deal, try and secure himself some a long-term future in Philadelphia. Decides not to. Season gets weird towards the end of the year. He opts in and then requests a trade because the free agency market isn't there for him. And to screw that up that many times, with the goal the entire time being to get that massive contract, and that's basically his motivation now, is that Philadelphia didn't give him a big deal, Houston didn't give him a big deal, he wants to go somewhere that will give him a big contract, and he's had that opportunity a couple of times and has refused to do it. And just not showing up to media day or not showing up to training camp, I don't think it's really going to change the equation for Philadelphia, because the issue here is not that Philly doesn't want to trade him. It's that Philly wants to get stuff back for him. If they can't get anything back, their best option is to try and see if Harden will play and be a decent player for them this year, because getting, a first round pick in 2029 from the Clippers doesn't help them. Even getting someone like Terrence Mann doesn't help them more than someone like James Harden would, assuming he actually, is on the court and playing. And that's why this situation is so difficult for Philadelphia, because they're not really worried about James Harden. They're not worried about, their priority is not James Harden. Their priority is Joel Embiid. Their priority is making sure that he's happy, that he still wants to be there, that they can continue to build a strong contending team around him. And if there was a way to do that by trading away James Harden, they would have done it already. So skipping media day, potentially skipping training camp, doesn't change the part of the equation that doesn't work here. And so essentially, there's a few ways in which this gets resolved. One, it actually works. And Philadelphia looks at the situation and says, you know what, if he's just not going to play, or if things are going to be weird, or if training camp is going to be awkward, then yeah, we'll dump him to the Clippers for a pick and we'll figure it out. Or some other team decides, you know what, we'll take the risk. We'll go ahead and be the James Harden team. That's option one. That seems unlikely at this point, but that is an option. Option two is that Philadelphia is like, you know what, dude, you got to play. You got to come back and play. If things go well for 2 months and we have an opportunity to trade you somewhere, then we'll do it. But right now you're on the roster. You're employed. You need to play. And he comes back and is probably pretty terrible, probably out of shape, probably isn't all that motivated. Things are really awkward and uncomfortable, which Philadelphia is familiar with the Ben Simmons situation. Then option three is that he's doesn't get traded, but then he has my knee's bothering me, my shoulder hurts, this, that, and the other, gets an opinion from a doctor somewhere that says, yeah, he's not medically cleared to play, and at that point he doesn't show up for Philly, makes things awkward for them, and then also is not violating this rule saying that he has to show up and be available for the team, otherwise his NBA career is basically going to be over and he won't be able to be a free agent. And to me, option three seems very likely at this point because there's no resolution to this. We've talked about this for 2 months and that resolution has not happened. It seemed like the Clippers thing was going to happen and it didn't. And you might be wondering at this point, Tucker, how is it so hard to trade James Harden when Damian Lillard just got all this stuff from Portland and it seemed like it was Miami or nothing, just like it seemed like it was the Clippers or nothing for Harden, but then all of a sudden a new Dame team showed up and all of a sudden they were able to make that work. The timelines are pretty similar. Shouldn't the Harden thing be resolved? Well, the difference in value between Harden and Lillard is massive. Clearly, it's absolutely massive, not to mention the impending free agency of all of this and him, again, being able to jump from team to team every single year basically is going to scare some teams off from giving up actual stuff. You can't really find another team around the league that's willing to, because you have to check all three boxes if you want to trade for James Harden. One, you have to be willing to trade away actual stuff that Philadelphia wants, that they feel like makes their basketball team better. Two, you have to be willing to risk losing that stuff for nothing in 9 months when free agency opens again, because Harden will be a free agent. He is not eligible to sign a contract extension. He will be a free agent. He is not going to do anything other than become a free agent. You have to be willing to risk that. And then three, if he decides to come back, you have to be willing to pay him a massive contract that clearly he wants and is the reason that he didn't want to return to Philadelphia this offseason. You have to check all three of those boxes, and that is why James Harden hasn't been traded yet, because no team in the league has been willing to check all three of those boxes. It's not Philadelphia's issue. They would like to trade him. They just can't find a team that's willing to do all of those things. And it's just an unbelievably weird situation, because when you think about what James Harden reportedly, supposedly wants and has wanted when he's gone from 4 teams and I think 5 seasons at this point, or 4 teams in 4 seasons, is he wanted out of Houston because they weren't going to be winning anytime soon, wanted to go to a new situation. Okay, cool. Goes to Brooklyn. Obviously the Kyrie situation gets weird, but they're really good when all three of those guys play. Situation just doesn't work out. Okay, so you want to be on a contending team. That was a contending team, but the Kyrie situation got weird. That's fine. You also wanted the contract, by the way. That was in front of you. You didn't want that, whatever. That's fine. Then now you go to Philadelphia, and they're a contending team. They offered you a contract last year. You didn't take it. And they're still a contending team. It would be very, very good if you would just play for them this year. And then maybe at the end of the season, you can actually get that big contract if you prove to the team that you're worth it. But at every single step along the way, there have been opportunities for Harden to get what he wants out of each individual situation, whether it be money, whether it be playing for a contender, and in some cases, both. And every single time, including now in Philadelphia, he has decided that situation doesn't work for him. He doesn't get enough shot opportunities in this situation. He wants to be an MVP again. He wants to go back to Houston. He wants to get all this money. He wants to play for a contender. He's not good enough anymore to justify all these teams jumping through all these different hoops just to try and land James Harden. And that's the biggest miscalculation of the entire situation for him and his representation is they're treating this situation like James Harden just averaged 37 a game and was the MVP of the league. In that scenario, the list of teams that would be willing to bring in James Harden, even with the expiring contract situation, would be really, really long. But he's not that guy anymore. Still very good, like I said, at certain points last year, still looked like an all-NBA caliber player, but he's just not. He's just not that MVP guy anymore. And so teams, there's other guys around the league that they want more. There's other guys around the league that haven't tried to ask out of 3 teams in 4 years and are going to be on their 4th team in 4 years potentially. There are other guys around the league that have had a better track record in terms of health over the last couple of seasons. There are other guys around the league that haven't quit on multiple teams. There are other guys around the league that do not have an expiring contract coming up. And that, all of those factors together is what makes this Harden situation so complicated for Philadelphia and borderline impossible to be resolved.